We'll do 7 NUFC Matters shows for free a week. But if you want to support the channel, there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast or video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications option. Hit the thanks button to buy a super sticker. You can do this on the live chat too. You can also join our Patreon page or buy us a coffee at the link in all of our video descriptions below. We are also looking for sponsors. If you want our latest advertising rates and how you can get involved, then email John at nufcmatters1892@gmail.com. Thanks for watching. Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Braith. It is the Supermac and Gibbo show. Good evening, lads.
Nice to see you, fellas. Hello, Mal.
John.
Good to see you guys, and as always, we've got an hour of chat about Newcastle United. Get your questions in if you've got any for the lads. But let's get straight to it. Newcastle United played the first leg of the semi-final, Mal, against Manchester City at St James's Park this week. We lost by 2-0. It wasn't a game without controversy. It wasn't a game without long VAR delays, and it wasn't a game without a Newcastle United striker missing chances again.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know, there was one point in the game, in the first half, Newcastle were knocking it about brilliantly, and the camera stayed on a couple of the Man City players, and they looked exhausted. They looked as if they weren't coping with the situation. And I thought, come on, take advantage of this. They're on the verge of giving up. You could see it in their faces, but we didn't grab it. And the cross fell to Wisa, and he got it all wrong, and it went over the bar. And from there, I can't remember seeing him again. He just seemed to me to disappear. And that's the one thing you must never do when you've had a chance, you didn't take it. You've got to go back and try harder, be more forceful, be more physical in the box, knock centre halves around a bit, and get yourself back into the game. Wisa didn't do it. He disappeared. I don't remember Wisa after that miss of his. And you can maybe tell me when he was substituted, because I didn't see him on the pitch after that miss. I just didn't see him anywhere in the action.
I think we've got a centre forward problem, guys. I think there's no.
I think we have,
doubt,
John.
There's no doubt about that. I mean, when you look back, this is a club of number 9s. We've got one of them, the best, sitting with us tonight. We also had Alan Shearer. We also had Ward Jackie. And if you go through loads of others like Andy Cole and Les Ferdinand, if you go just to last season, and I'm not suggesting he's a hero or a legend because of the way he left us, but in terms of his goals, he's had 25 and 27 in his last 2 seasons here. We've spent the whole of the money we got from Isaac, bar £1 million on 2 replacements, Wisa and Voldemort, and for totally different reasons. As of this moment, neither's doing the job. There were pay limitation. Voldemort, obviously, because I consider him a 10, not a 9. We play him all the time as a 9, and he's not a 9. and he doesn't look like a 9, and he doesn't attack the game like a 9. Reece looks like a 9 in the way he plays, but he's missed 2 sitters in the opening 5 minutes of the last 2 games. In the cup when the keeper made a save. In this one, he didn't even get on target. And by the way, he was standing by himself in no man's land and just had to knock it in this last game. And the whole complexion.
Yeah, but he took a touch, John. Instead of taking it first time, he took the touch.
Yes.
And he allowed the defender then to close him down somewhat. And when he did get his shot in, it was too high.
He was leaning back. Not to hit the target. Even if we had gone ahead, then it would have changed the whole complexion of the game.
Completely.
The crowd would have got up. The team would have got up. Man City would have got down.
And Man City, they were going down because you could tell by the faces of the players that they knew they were being outplayed and outpassed by Newcastle.
But at the end of the day, it's always the same. I mean, if the end we have real problems without being too dramatic. First of all, we haven't got a centre forward who scores goals. Neither Voldemort or Wissa, for very different reasons, are filling in and are anywhere near what Isaac was. Forget about what he did, because that's a whole different matter. But on the pitch, what he was. And if you go to the other end, we are shoveling goals into our own net like there's no tomorrow. It's 2 against City. It was 3 against. Bournemouth, 3 against Leeds, 2 against Chelsea, 2 against Spurs, and all them games are at home, you know. And we have let 2 goals or 3 goals in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 top games there. Now, the pressure that puts on more up front, because we've got to score 2 or 3 goals in a match to win it. Yeah. And that's a lot of pressure when you haven't got the real cutting edge that we've had in the past. And it all came home to roost in the one game. And yes, we've had a good run at home. And yes, I'm chuffed about that. And yes, when we play certain sides at home, we will win. But I mean, also, if you look at the other side of the coin, when we've played good sides at home, or allegedly good sides at home, this season, we've lost. We've lost at home to Arsenal. We've lost at home to Barcelona. We lost at home to Liverpool at the start of the season when they were on an upward trend, when they were winning all their games before they took a little dip. And now we've lost at home to Man City in the semi-final of the Cup. And you know, the home fortress is not quite a fortress. It's a fortress if you're not playing the super duper sides, but it's not. Last season, we were beating the super duper sides. We beat Arsenal home and away in the semi-final of the Cup. We beat Liverpool in the final. And it's not quite like that now. And it's going to be a tough old few weeks coming up, because it's going to decide which way the season's going to go. And it is tough because we haven't got a centre forward. I mean, our best goal scorer now is a winger. Harvey Barnes is our best goal scorer by a mile, and he's a winger. We haven't got a through the middle goal scorer, and it's tough because we've had to say what we always say, guys, haven't we? We've had Eddie saying it's not over, it's half time, and if we get the first goal down there, it can be a different ball game. I mean, the time that we were going to get to Wembley was at home. We had to take a lead down there.
Yes.
And
more
the
than
record book shows, Steve, that when we go down there under Eddie, which is a much better time than it used to be, because Eddie's revived us enormously, but our record under Eddie of going to Manchester City, Eddie's taken us to Manchester City 5 times. We've lost 5 times. We haven't scored a single goal in those 5 games, and we've conceded 14. Yet, can we hope that we're going to win 3-0 down there when that's our record down there? Because we don't have to win the game. We've got to win it by 3 goals to go through. I mean, it doesn't give us a lot of hope. That second goal, it was bad enough going down there 1-0 down, but that second goal's absolutely killed everything stone dead, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely right, John. I think And I think that you could sense the feeling all around the stadium that the second goal was the absolute killer, and that there was no way back for Newcastle from there.
Yeah. Did he get the side right? Did he get the side right, lads? Did he pick the right team? I mean, we're all the players are tired. We had 120 minutes of football plus penalties against Bournemouth at the weekend, and I mean, I would have played Trippier for his experience against Dockey. I'm not saying Miley had a bad game, not in the slightest, but it would have given us a different option.
Steve, he gets caught for a lack of pace. Time and again, he gets caught. And the question marks are out. That's why Target.
I tell you where I think he got it wrong, guys. He didn't start Harvey Bonds. And he's on fire. And he's on fire, Harvey Bonds. And I think I said it on here when I was talking last week. Not only has he scored 11 goals this season from playing as a winger, etc., but when I looked this up in the record prior to the game. When we beat Man City up here a few weeks back, we beat them 2-1. And I just happened to want to revive my memory. And I had a look. And what did it say? Bonds 2. He scored 2 all the time. Now, when we beat Man City, he scored both the goals. But we didn't start him in the semi-final. That we had to get a good lead to take down there. I think that was wrong.
I couldn't agree more with you, John. Absolutely. And Newcastle, they've been used to playing 2 wingers, but Barnes gives the added, when he plays on the right, he gives the added strength and power to get into the opponent's box, and he will stick the ball in the net. And we don't see Murphy getting into the 6-yard box. We're not seeing Gordon at all in terms of shooting, crossing at the moment. He looks a bit fancy Danish on the ball. But sorry, John.
He's a pale shadow, Malcolm, isn't he?
He is.
To what he was when he first got in the England side and he was doing sensationally for us and he forced his way into the England side. Right. You look at him now. I'll come back and I've said this before on this podcast and I'll say it again. I don't know the reason because I'm not around enough to see it at close quarters. But the body language of Gordon and of Tonali worries me. They look on downers. When we used to be up and buoyant and Gordon was attacking and if he used to do the Bruno thing, if you forced the ball out for a throw-in, he'd go to the crowd two-fisted and come over. He now looks on a downer. And Sandro does. Sandro is not the player he was. Nowhere near the player he was.
I think he's having to do too much donkey work in the side, John. He goes chasing here, there and everywhere. But it's chasing the ball instead of being on the ball and making the play work.
I'm concerned, Malcolm, that to all intents and purposes, we're all human beings, including the players. They'll think now they're almost certainly out of they're not going to go to Wembley. That doesn't mean they won't give it a real go down there. It doesn't mean they won't try. It doesn't mean they're playing for honour.
No, they will give it a go.
But the truth of the matter is you've got to win by 3 clear goals. So it's almost gone. And if that's so, and the only way of winning silverware is to go and win at Aston Villa, because you can't bring them back for a replay in the FA Cup. You've got to win down there. Right. Now, if we don't do that and we go out at Man City, we've got nothing left to play for this season apart from if we're still in the Champions League and trying to qualify for the Champions League next season. But we can't win anything. And this implodes on people. I think there will be players that will become deflated, if you like. And that's why I'm concerned about where Gordon and Tonali are now. Their body language tells me they're not happy bunnies, and not because of the result a couple of nights back, way before that. of recent times, their body language isn't good. And I didn't think and I said it to you when we were sitting in the press box, and you agreed with me, Malcolm, last season. I said to you, Isak doesn't look, his body language is terrible.
Yeah.
This is long before the transfer. The body language is, I'm thinking, is he being tapped, or does he want to? Everything was wrong about him. Now, I'm not suggesting that Tonali's been tapped, but there's something wrong with Tonali. And Gordon,
certainly there's been the stories about Juventus, John.
Oh yeah, does he want to go back home? Gordon's never been the same since Liverpool came on the scene. He's never been the same mentally. He's never looked the va-va-voom guy that we first knew. I tell you what, he's going to play for England in the World Cup, and for me, is our second best outside left, because our best outside left's Harvey Barnes. He's second best at the club.
Yeah,
Gordon's never scored in a year. He's never scored a goal. I mean, that's incredible for a winner.
If you take the Champions League out, that's right. In the Premier League, it's something like 30-odd games or something. I mean, he scored the penalties and what have you in the Champions League this season. But no, I mean, his record, he's gone like snow off a house roof, hasn't
he? Right. Yeah. I've seen it happen before. Not often, but I have seen it happen where a player, he gets a few caps playing for England and he thinks, that's it, I've made it. I'm kingpin and I can totally relax now being the England international. I've seen it happen with other players and I hope it's not happening with Gordon, that he needs to light the fuse again within himself.
Interesting stat here as well. Stephen Kennedy, thanks for the tip-off. He sent me an email earlier this week to suggest that I watched our new striker Wissa's goals from last season. 19 goals he scored in all competitions. 16 of them with his right foot and 3 with his left. Well, 2 with his left foot and 1 with his left knee, which bubbled in, like one of these cool mouth scrambles. So predominantly, Malcolm, he looks like a right footer. So those chances that fell to him were both on the left. And, one would imagine that he's got to get the ball under control. So, why is he drifting to the left-hand post when he should be at the, maybe he's more central or to the right?
Yeah, I see the point. In all honesty, I have little time for centre forwards who are totally one-footed. Mm-hmm. Little time indeed, because they should be working on both feet. That you come up against right-footed centre halves, so you want to go on your right foot. You come up against left-footed centre halves, so you go the other way. You should always, as a centre forward, be able to give yourself the option of going either way and attacking the defenders. And I don't think he's got that. He hasn't got that ability because he's looking all the while to get across onto his right foot. And I think that we saw with that miss against Man City that the ball came initially to his left foot and he didn't really control it at all. And so he really should be working at his on his right foot. He should be going in, not when the training's taking place. He should be going back afterwards and saying, right, I want a couple of young kids out on the wings or outside the box, knocking me in so I can work on finishing with my left foot. I did that for years, absolute years. Harry Haslam, when I was at Luton, he gave me a plastic Frido ball and it had Johnny Giles plastered all over it. It was the only time I ever got to kick Johnny Giles, and they got an empty warehouse that was owned by the co-op, and I used to go in there in the afternoons, and I literally would run with the ball, strike it against one wall. It would come back. I would control it, turn, and go and strike it against the opposite wall, and I would keep going back and forth, and I wasn't allowed to use anything but my right foot. And I'll tell you the difference that it made, and I continued to work at it all of the time over my career. And I finished up, I wasn't that far behind my left foot with my right. I wasn't in goals.
But you started work at 21. As you say, you continue. You're 21 when you come to us, and you were doing all that before you come to us. And yes, you continue doing it. We says 29 now. I don't think he's going to start doing much new at 29-year-old. Well, that's what worries me about him. The other interesting thing, guys, that and I'm not suggesting this, but I listened to Ian Wright since we played in the Carabao Cup semi-final, and Ian Wright knows one or two things about playing centre forward. He played centre forward very successfully in the Arsenal side.
Yeah, got a lot of time for Ian.
He got some England caps. And Ian Wright says that if those chances had come to Johan at Brentford, he would have scored them. But at Newcastle, he's feeling the pressure of being in a huge club with a big fan base, a number 9 legends reputation, 52,000, and he's so keen on doing well, he's overthinking it. He's overcautious. He's taking a touch, as you said he did, Malcolm. He took a touch instead of just
an unnecessary touch.
Finishing.
And that it's a fraction of a second, maybe. But it's enough for a defender to make 3 or 4 yards and come in with a tackle.
But it's interesting, and I don't know if it's true, but it was interesting to think that perhaps this is the first time Risa went on strike because he wanted to come to a big club, which is what Newcastle United, 52,000 playing in the Champions League. He'd been playing at Brentford, with all respect to Brentford. You see managers that do terrific at Brentford, and then, well, Frank, and then he goes to Spurs with all the pressure, and it's a whole different ballgame. They look more vulnerable. You see Potter, who does well at Swansea and Brighton, and then goes to Chelsea, and doesn't look the same type of manager. When you go to a big club as a player or a manager, it's a different sort of pressure, isn't it? You know, is Visa. It was interesting that Ian Wright thinks that last season you would have just pulled the trigger, automatically goal. This season he's playing at St James's Park. There's 52,000. They're a Champions League team who are wanting to be in the top 4. I mean, Brentford don't look to be in the top 4, although this season, because they're not looking to be in the top 4, they're doing exceptionally well. That was an interesting thought about the Risa situation. Now, my only hope, because I can only judge on what I've seen, and what I've seen, neither Voldemort or Risa are anywhere near what Isaac was at Newcastle in the previous 2 seasons. So we've got a centre forward problem. My hope is that Risa is not physically sharp yet, because he never played from the end of last season, never played pre-season friendlies, never played the first games of the season, etc., etc. Then he got his transfer to Newcastle and was automatically injured with the Congo straight away. So he's still playing catch-up. He's not fit. Isaac's been the same at Liverpool. Because they're paying the price for going on strike, because they haven't kept in the loop and I haven't kept physically sharp.
John, you've made a very good point there. It's amazing if you're not putting the work in. It's quite surprising how quickly you can lose that edge, and it's so minimalistic, but it's the most important part of finishing. You just get an inch in front of the defender.
I'm going to broaden this a little bit then. And this is a you can give an honest answer to it. I mean, it's the 15th of January, lads. We've played plenty football, although you've already mentioned Wissa hasn't because of his injury. Is it safe to say that this summer's transfer window is probably the most disappointing transfer window we've had since the takeover?
Without a shadow of doubt. And really by a million miles, because we've had great transfer when we've been able to buy, and I know I had a couple of windows when we didn't buy, but previously our buys, everything from Trippier and Bruno early on to Isaac and Gordon, and when he first come, and Hall and Livramento, our buys were consistently excellent. Consistent. Almost everyone was excellent. This summer, the only person that's been a success for me is Chow, who's had a rough time recently and made mistakes recently, but looks a quality player. Voldemort started off very, very well in as much as he scored with every shot he had, which was one a game. And is a good footballer, but doesn't look a centre forward, and we insist he is a centre forward. So I wouldn't say he's an unqualified success yet. Ramsey has still not lived up to 44 million. There's signs that there's something there, but he hasn't. Elanga's been a mitigated disaster.
He has improved considerably.
He has, but he's not a 44 million. It doesn't get hold of a game yet.
He's looking a long way away from that.
He's not getting hold of the game and saying, "Hey, wait a minute, listen, I'm the kiddie. I'm going to get hold of this ball in the middle of the field, and I'm going to dictate the way this game's going."
Yeah.
He's not. The signings last summer, Ramsdale's putting absolutely no pressure on Pope because he makes mistakes. He's a walking mistake, and he may have made 3 great saves in a penalty shootout, but there shouldn't have been a penalty shootout if him and Botman hadn't got mixed up with the last kick of the match to allow them to equalise. No, the window has been poor. We haven't had a window as poor. And you know what worries me? You can see little signs with Ramsey. You can see little signs with Wissa. But I can't see any little signs with Elanga whatsoever. How the heck's Elanga going to become a quality winger? Because he now, not only was he a headless chicken, like he runs like the wind, but there's nothing at the end of it, but now his confidence is lower than the snake's belly. So, I mean, when he come on the other night, that's the worst he's played for us. I mean, he's going backwards, not forwards.
I think you did well to notice him, John.
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. So, yes, it may be the law of averages, Steve. It may work out because we've been so successful in the transfer market. Were we bound to not have some success at some stage? Because you can't get every transfer right. But our transfer window in the summer has turned out to be because, as you say, we haven't made a knee-jerk decision after 6 games. We're into mid-January here. We're well over half a season, and, it's been disappointing. And we are wanting them to go back in the transfer market this January because we need defenders, etc., and we need a big summer in the transfer market. But we don't just need to buy players. We did that last summer. We need to buy good ones that hit the ground running. And really, that is a concern.
Sure. And if you think about it, John, that prior to the summer, we went 2 or 3 windows without purchasing any players at all. And these league regulations are that they're making life somewhat difficult for Newcastle. And so here we had the money to spend. We had the opportunity from the Premier League to go and spend money, and we got it all so wrong.
But the interesting thing, Malcolm, and I just noticed Phil put something along the bottom there that was very, very true. These weren't in the main. None of these certainly were two centre forwards. None of them were our first choice. Now, does that mean you're bound to get it wrong or whatever, or does it mean why the heck couldn't we get our first choice? Why did people not want to come here? Because they didn't. They went to Manchester United. They went to Arsenal. Delap went to Chelsea. The centre forward went to Arsenal. Senzo went to Manchester United. I mean, our two centre forwards, bless them, and I'm not having a go at either of them, but were about fifth and sixth choice. Centre forward, we spent the whole summer, we couldn't sign a centre forward. I mean, that happened a lot last season. We didn't get James Trafford when we wanted a goalkeeper, and we got Ramsdale as cover instead. We didn't, 3/4 of the way through the summer, Steve, we couldn't sign anybody. We got a big spurge at the end. And yes, we paid over the odds for Voldemort and we paid over the odds for Visa because we had to. Because we're about 3 or 4 days off the window shutting, and we have the window shut with nobody coming in. So we paid over the odds. But it wasn't a good window that way either. We'd never signed our first choices. And with the two centre forwards, they were about our fifth and sixth choice, weren't they?
Yeah. But I don't understand why when you're having to go so way down the pecking order to purchase. Why get two? Why not just make do with one? And I would think.
I think they went for two, Malcolm, because they knew they were losing Callum Wilson, and they had no backup. I mean, whoever was centre forward,
John, they lost Callum Wilson.
Wilson had gone. There was no
months and months and months previously. He was constantly out injured.
So there's talk of him coming back. For God's sake, people saying we should get him back for the last 6 months of the season. He's not going to swap.
I think if we ditch the two centre forwards we have and we've got Chris Wood and Callum Wilson back, I think we'd qualify for the championship. For the championship, I said, by the way, Steve.
I heard you.
But it actually causes one hell of a problem, when your defence and your midfield they're looking forward and they're wanting to see that real danger that they can play the ball to, who's going to rip the opposition apart. And
you know what, Malcolm? You know what? Because of the dire straits we're in with the two centre forwards, because for various different reasons they're not playing well. I'm rather anxious and would like to see Voldemort playing 10 again, because when he played 10 up front, I thought he had a terrific game at St James's.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did, and he was so much more mobile in the 10 position than he was at 9.
His vision opened up, Malcolm. His vision opened, and you know what? When he got the ball and looked up, there was somebody actually ahead of him, which was Visa. When he's playing 9, he gets the ball in deep and looks up. There's nobody up there.
Right, but not that Wisa was even looking for it off of Voldemort. He wasn't making any runs. He wasn't looking to get into a position to receive it. There was nothing between the two players whatsoever. And I looked at Wisa and I thought, you're out of order here.
I didn't think it was Voldemort's fault. I thought he did well.
No, it was Wisa. Yeah, Wisa just didn't want to know.
If we believe the press, lads, we've been chasing James Trafford now for about 2.5 years. Can either of you see why after that performance against us the other night?
Well, I wouldn't get carried away just because he kept a clean sheet against us. I mean, we couldn't burst a paper bag.
I didn't think he was very good.
No, I don't think he's anything special. I tell you what, because of his young years and because of his lack of experience, I wouldn't be thrilled a bit for him to be our number one keeper the full time. Particularly, he might well become a good keeper in the future, and perhaps that's what Pep's doing. The goalkeeper he's got, who was world class at Paris Saint-Germain and
Yes.
with Italy, is 33 or 34 or
Yeah,
whatever he
Donnarumma.
is. So he keeps Trafford sitting in there, and he eventually takes over. I don't think Trafford's ready now to take over from Pope. I would want somebody more experienced and better than he is, and proven to be better than he is, to play for us in goal. But I tell you what, I'm wanting somebody to push Pope, and I'm sorry, I'd send Ramsdale back at the end of the season. I don't want to sign him, and I want to sign a good goalkeeper. It'll give Pope a run for his money. Ramsdale isn't. Not good enough. I'm sorry, by the standards we are aiming for, he's not good enough.
Sure, and I just wonder. That I've always had a serious thought about where the goalkeepers play, what clubs, and I thought that Trafford would be much better than he was, because having been playing at Burnley, Burnley have had their ups and downs, and he's had some difficult seasons to deal with as Trafford in his early years, and he's been very busy, put under a lot of pressure there at Burnley, and he doesn't seem to have learned a great deal from it.
His record at Burnley, Malcolm, if you actually look in the record books, is an interesting situation. When he first come in the Burnley side, they were in the Premier League, and he took in water. He was this bright kid with an England future.
Yes.
He took in water. They actually had to take him out the side to protect him, because he was shell shocked, to protect him, and they went down to protect him. Now he then continued. He went back in the team when they won the championship and kept so many clean sheets. But it was in the championship, for goodness sake, with a good defence in front of him, and he kept all the clean sheets in the championship. But he has never played consistently and then they got promoted, and he's ended up going to Man City. He's never played yet at this stage of his life regularly in the Premier League and played impressively. And I mean, Thomas Tuchel looked at him, etc., and right at the last England sides that were picked, he dropped Trafford as England's number 3 goalkeeper and picked Pope. And then Pope couldn't go, if you remembered, because he got injured between getting picked in the reporting, and then he had to bring Trafford back in to sit there as the number 3. But I mean, I've got no doubt there's huge talent in there, and I've got no doubt eventually he'll be a good goalkeeper. But at 22 or 23, which he is now, could he take over at a club like Newcastle as the undisputed number 1 and do the business? I'm not convinced.
No. Even just on the 90 minutes I saw earlier in the week, I would say no.
Moving away from the pitch, lads, we'll open this up to both of you from Gary. But John, what information have you got on the new training facility and the time frame? And we can pass it over to Malcolm when we see how important do you think this is in attracting world-class talent to the club, having a brand new training ground?
First and foremost, I think it's hugely important, because that is where the players live every day. They don't live every day at St. James's Park, because they only go there on match days. They live every day at the training ground. And if the training ground looks like some rabbit hutch from Colditz or something, then it begins to affect them. Now, it has been improved from that to a significant extent. What I'm looking for, and maybe this is why we've got a little breakthrough this week, what I'm looking for is the Saudis to stop, because they never tell you anything on the record. They allow information to filter through, guiding journalists towards which way they should talk. Now, there's been a good reason why Newcastle haven't been able to progress on the pitch as much as they would want to, because they haven't been allowed to spend the wealth that the Saudis have got because of financial fair play. Now, whether you hide behind that or whether it's literally the fact, and it is the fact, then that's a different matter. But financial fair play does not come into what you do with your stadium or what you do with your training ground. You can spend as much as you like on both those things. There is no restriction financially with these rules on what you do behind the scenes. Now, we've talked for how long since the takeover? We've talked about a new ground or an extension of the ground we've got, moving it 50 yards, moving it all the way to the town moor, not doing any of that. We've talked and talked and talked. We've talked about the training ground, etc., etc. I am, and behind the scenes, there's been guidance. Look, we'll guide you off the record. We're not saying anything on the record, etc., etc., etc. Bottom line, nothing has happened in 4 years. There's been plenty of time for something to happen, something concrete to happen. We've now got two new guys behind the scenes in charge of running the club. Hutchinson on that side and Wilson on the recruitment side. Two good guys who dovetails superbly with Eddie Howe, and that is hugely important. And
Yes.
I met Mr. Hutchinson, and he's a very impressive guy. They've got to give them the tools to make Newcastle United what they ought to be. We know the restrictions in buying. There isn't any restrictions in doing the behind-the-scenes thing. We've been told about the new site, and I think it's because people are getting a little bit critical now. I've been mentioning it. Craig Hope on the Daily Mail, who is at the forefront of a lot of Newcastle United good information, has been blasting it in public. And the Newcastle United have got twitchy, and they've replied to a certain extent. And they're earmarking a new site for a training ground. That's great. I'm sorry, but could I have a public statement? Could I have an actual statement by the club on what they're going to do about the training ground? It'd be nice to have a public statement about what they're going to do about the stadium as well. But could we actually do something? There's no restrictions here. They can spend as much as they like. They can spend 2 and tuppence jeg, or they can spend £1 trillion. But let us do something. They've been in charge for 4.5 years or whatever. We need to bring that up to, because whatever else we do, unless we have the facilities to attract the players, which is the training ground, or the right stadium to fill it and get commercially all the spin-off sappings, we will always be treading water. Now, when Manchester City were taken over, they changed not only the ground and the training facilities, but half the area around the ground.
Yes.
They built on that to help the city and the etc. I mean, they were dynamic, they were progressive. Now, what everybody asks is, are the Saudis in it for the big haul because they haven't done this? The answer we get back on the grapevine all the time is they are, and they're 100% committed, etc., etc. Now, I'm not going to doubt that for one moment because I haven't got a reason not to doubt it. But I would like to see some action, please, regarding the training ground especially, because I tell you what, Isaac wasn't chuffed with the training ground. I'm not suggesting he left us for the training ground, but and there's other senior players that feel like he did, that, wait a minute, we've been hearing that this is the richest club, the phrase, the richest club in the world because of what money they've got. We're not, but we could be. So let's see some action. We know why there hasn't been action in the transfer market because of the restrictions imposed on them. There's no restrictions here. So let's see some action.
John, yes. And the figure that I saw quoted as to how much they were going to spend on a completely new training complex was 200 million. And I don't think 200 million scratches the surface. I think it's more like 500,000 that it's, if they're really going to do the job, not just well, but to be absolutely equal to the Man United's, Man City's, Liverpool's, Arsenal's, Tottenham, etc. And if you go to the training ground now, it's got an awful lot of facilities, but they're like 25 years behind the times. You know, it's very nice. It's lovely. It's absolutely terrific. It's a huge situation. You know, when you think that, good heavens above, in my 5 years at Newcastle, we had the old cricket pavilion, and the two dressing rooms, one for the first team, one for the reserves, and then there was the bathroom in the middle, and everybody would plunge in to a bath that was only it was only about a foot deep, so you had about 6 inches of water in it, you know, and there was about 30 people trying to get in there, but now all of that has changed. But I did look around and I thought, well, these are lovely facilities, but it's like walking back into the sort of 1990s, 1980s.
We're well behind. When we look at training
We are a long way behind.
facilities, we are well behind an awful lot of clubs in the Premier League.
Yeah.
And the only way we are going to play catch up is by increasing our facilities, which we can do with a blink of a hat. If we've got the money and we've got the desire and we've got the people that'll drive it forward quickly, we can do that anytime we like. Then that spins off onto what you get with commercially at St. James's Park, etc. And then that increases your ability to spend money on players. So it's like, you know, the hamster in the wheel. You've got to keep going on everything to be able to compete. And we made when we were taking over, we made rapid steps. And I was so thrilled, and we made rapid steps. And I'll never forget and be grateful for 2 Champions League campaigns, 2 Wembley finals, won one of them. I don't lose track of that. But I tell you something, Steve, if you're climbing Everest, and we were at the bottom to start with, if you're climbing Everest, getting to halfway up Everest is the easy bit. The higher you go, the more difficult it becomes. Yeah. And we quickly made up ground from the base camp of the Premier League to beyond halfway. Now you've got to push on from that position to the summit. And that's the difficult bit. And we've slowed down. And what really angers me in slowing down, and I'm now coming back to on the pitch, is that Aston Villa haven't. And they overcome, early this season, they overcome all the problems we've got now, where players were getting a bit, I mean, the goalkeeper, Martinez and Ollie Watkins were dischuffed because they've been prevented from transfers. They had to sell good players. They weren't able to buy too many. They started the season. They didn't score in about the first 6 games. We started with a 0-0 there. And if we'd had a centre forward, we would have hammered them. But we didn't have a centre forward, so we didn't have a cutting edge. But all of a sudden, Emery's turned that round. I'm not there day to day, so I haven't seen how he's done it. But he's mentally turned that totally round from a very poor start to the season, from the huge limitations that we have, etc., and they're flying. That's sickens me because I don't like Aston Villa much, and I certainly don't like Emery because he turned us down. But I think he's a terrific coach. And that's not to say Eddie isn't, but I think he's a terrific coach. And what he's done we often say Eddie's man management, and it is good. But his man management's been unique.
Sure. But if you're given the facilities, you've got no excuse, John. But I don't think that Eddie Howe, he has been given the full facilities that he sees other clubs have got.
No, but
he must be conscious.
Emery's turned around the transfer situation, which is much harder. And
Yes, he has.
They are still in a mess, Malcolm. They are still in a mess this window and this summer, where they are restricted what they can do. They've just had to sell Malin to an Italian club in the hope that they can get a striker in. They're in the restrictions we've been in because we sold Isaac. We're in no restriction at all. It temporarily in the transfer market. He's produced. Never mind the facilities behind the scenes. He's produced a miracle in the dressing room and in the morale and in the juggling of the balls and keeping them in the air instead of dropping them. I mean, Villa have produced. And by the way, let us hope that all of a sudden they're going to hit a brick wall because they're about to play us twice. They're up here in about a week and a half's time in the league, and then we're down there in the FA.
Yeah.
Please, God, don't allow them to put a big dent in our season, because if we don't get the results in those two games, there is a big dent in our season.
Yeah, we've got about 10 minutes left, lads. Just quickly, do you think we're going to sign anybody in this transfer window? Because it seems as if more people have been linked with a departure than incomings. Are we going to sign anybody, John? Give us some positivity.
Great question. I would have said if things had gone according to plan and we looked as if we'd steadied the boat somewhat when we got an away win at long last at Burnley, doomed side, but we still won. We got an away win at Burnley. We come back home and we were starting to get results, and we got the super duper 4-3 with Leeds. We won the penalty shootout with Bournemouth. There was warnings in both of those because they weren't easy, and we were about to take a Leeds to Manchester City for the second leg. We wouldn't have seen anything happening in the transfer market. I think now we will. But I think it's because needs must. And I think it will be to help out a defence that is not only stretched in terms of numbers, but is getting absolutely battered in terms of goals. We've only got the 4 people stretched across the back, and one of them's Miley. Trippier's come back into it, but Miley, who's not a right back, but has done well in there.
He's done brilliantly, John.
But we've only got the other 2 centre halves and all. We haven't got any.
Yeah.
I think we will buy a right-sided centre half in January, but I think we had no intentions apart from that, and we're certainly not going to buy a goalkeeper or solve the centre forward situation. Or somebody says, please. A fan said to me, and I can understand why, please buy an outside right because we're struggling there. They're hardly going to do that when they spent 55 million on an outside right just a few months ago. Elanga, they've already bought one. The fact that he hasn't worked is a totally different thing, but they've already, so they're going to buy another one. No, I think we'll buy a defender, a right-sided centre half because needs must, but don't expect much more than that.
And where does Elanga sit now? He's really third choice, isn't he? Just about.
Yes,
he comes after
because on the first
Barnes,
choice,
Murphy,
the first choice is either Barnes or Gordon on the right, and it's normally Barnes. The second choice is Murphy, and the third choice is Elanga.
Crazy, isn't it? Yeah. Crazy. Okay, I don't want to cut into your tea time, lads. So let's just look ahead to the game of the weekend. Newcastle United travel to basement dwellers Wolves. It's a 2:00 kickoff on Sunday, live on Sky Sports. Following a 1-0 success on Tyneside last September, Eddie Howe's side have the opportunity of a second Premier League win double this season. They've already taken 6 points off Burnley, of course. This will be the 22nd time that the two clubs have faced each other in the Premier League, with Newcastle scoring at least 1 goal in each of the previous 21 meetings. Team news: Tino Livramento, Fabian Schär and Dan Burn remain out. Updates on the availability of Jacob Murphy, William Masula, Jamal Lascelles and Emil Kraft will come from Eddie at the press conference. Assuming he features at the weekend, Lewis Miley will complete his half-century of Premier League appearances at the very young age of 19. Well done, young man. Wolves are missing Gomez, Chiwomi, Bellegarde, Monetti and Agbadou has returned following AFCON duty with Ivory Coast. Following 11 successive Premier League defeats, Wolves took 5 points from their last 3 games, 1-1 draw at Man United, a and Everton, and bookending that with a 3-0 home win over West Ham United. Saturday then saw them beat Shrewsbury Town 6-1 at Molineux in the FA Cup with Norwegian striker and alleged Tyne transfer target Jorgen Strand Larsen registering a hat-trick, who he now has 6 goals this season, although just one of them is in the Premier League. 18-year-old winger and new sensation Matheus Mane has scored in his last 2 Premier League appearances. He's Portuguese born, but he's an England youth international, and he found the net in an under-18 Premier League game against Newcastle less than a year ago. The manager, well, he's been in the North East, or Yorkshire, depending on how you feel, for a little bit this season, Rob Edwards. But he did previously face Newcastle United when he was boss of Luton Town, guiding them to a 4-4 draw at St James's Park and a 1-0 home win at Kenilworth Road in the 23-24 season. Referee for this game is Sam Barrett. It's his second game of the season in a Newcastle fixture. He was in charge of our 2-1 Premier League home win over Manchester City. And the ludicrous system, which is called VAR, yep, it's in operation because it's a Premier League game. It's Paul Tierney. The game, though, is live on Sky Sports and on BBC Radio 5 Live. Okay, lads, here we go. Predictions for this one at the weekend. Wolves have found a little bit of form, John.
Yeah, they have, but they're still hopeless. They're still bottom of the league. They're still 14 points off a safety position. This game is absolutely crucial for lots of reasons. And the biggest one being what's just happened to us with Man City. But what's left of our season, this is make or break coming up, because what's left of our season will depend on what we do away from home. All right, we lost at home to Man City, but normally at home we're steady away. We'll pick up results at home unless it's the cream of the cream. What will decide our season is what we do away. And what we're now facing of 4 away games, which across all 4 competitions we're still in, which will absolutely make us or break us. And it starts with Wolves, which is the easiest one. We'll play Wolves in the Premier League. We also then play Manchester City away in the second leg of the League Cup. We then play Aston Villa away in the FA Cup. And then we play Paris Saint-Germain away in the Champions League. Now, considering our away form, thinking that we're about to go to Manchester City, Aston Villa, and Paris Saint-Germain is frightening, because they're 3 absolute top quality sides. So, and it starts with a Premier League one. If we are going to qualify for Europe next season, etc., and that could turn out to be our main hope if we go out of the 2 domestic cups, then we've got to get 3 points against Wolves. And I think that's the easiest one by a million miles of us. But what happens with Wolves at Manchester City, at Villa, and at PSG will define which way our season goes, whether it goes on an upward trajectory and we still get something out of it, or whether it nosedives. And I fear for 3 of those away games, tough. This one, I believe that Wolves are as poor as it gets. We have got 2 away Premier League wins against moderate sides. Everton's moderate, and Burnley's doomed. We won at Burnley. These are even more doomed than Burnley. Let's not think, they've won a few points recently, etc. They scored 6 in the cup. Who were they playing in the cup? They were playing Shrewsbury. They weren't playing a side like Newcastle United. They were another side. We have got to win here. We've got to win here. Now, can you imagine if we don't, after the result with Man City, if we draw, heaven forbid we lose? I mean, and then we've got to come home to PSV and Aston Villa next week. I mean, we've got to win this one. I think it'll be close. I think it'll be nervy. I think it'll be harder than it ought to be. But I'm taking it to win 2-1. The only reason I'm making it so narrow is because we'll be nervy. And I've allowed them to have a goal because we don't know how to keep a clean sheet now. We just let goals in like a bucket that's full of holes. And isn't it amazing, guys? Because, by the way, if you look at our back four, even the back four at the moment with all the injuries, individually, those back four players have huge reputations. Miley's a young genius. Chow is the best signing we made in the summer in his quality. Botman's just got a new huge contract because he's good. And Hall is terrific. Those four have conceded either 2 or 3 goals at home regularly every game. Now, they might have huge reputations individually, but collectively, we have, bottom line, we have let in goals upon goals upon goals. Why, if they're so good individually, why, when we put them together, we still leak piles of goals? And therefore, I'm not going for a clean sheet. I've gone for 2-1.
No, I fully understand why, John.
What about you, Mal?
Yeah, if it after a month of the season, you had to sit down and write the 6 sides away from home that you could pick, that you could take 3 points off of, Wolves would probably be fairly near the top of your list.
Absolutely.
And that hasn't changed. And if I were Eddie Howe, I would be in the dressing room saying, this is one you have to go and win. And I've never been one for putting too much of a pressure on sides to win away from home. It's always difficult, always. But this is one that they can go and they can prepare for what's due to come by getting a win at Molineux. And what we need to see is everybody, all 11 players, getting together and playing as a team for a whole 90-minute period. And if they do that, they will win. And they must do it for what's to come following that match.
Okay, so you've both gone for a win. I'm going for a 1-1 draw, like Neil in the chat.
Sorry, I didn't do a score, Steve. I'm with John on 2-1.
2-1. Okay, I'm going 1-1. We will catch up again next week, lads. Of course, we've got the Champions League game next week, but we will recap on that and look ahead to the weekend next weekend. Enjoy your night. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Take care. Good night.
God bless.
Good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.
A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find them at their website, skipsandbins.com. Contact them, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. Big thanks to Media Arts for all the technical side of things. And a thanks to our fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel. UK Coach Holidays established 2020. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. 2026 tours, 2 crew, driver and courier, local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels, no interchanges, hot and cold snacks and drinks available on the coach, all excursions included. Website www.unitedgrouptravel.com, email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com, telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. Just £30 per person deposit. Big welcome to GC Competitions, a new sponsor. A day none of us will forget. This is your chance to win this stunning Newcastle United signed Carabao Cup final winners display with replica medal. For only $1.99 a ticket, you can be the proud owner of this piece of Toon history. The draw will take place on Sunday the 18th of January. Don't miss out. Get your tickets now at www.gccompetitions.co.uk. If you want to support the channel, you can hit the subscribe button. It's free. We do 7 shows a week. Hit the thumb up to like the channel and click share to your social media. If you like to listen to us as a podcast, you can find us on Sports Social Podcast Network or iTunes or Spotify or other podcast providers.